So today I've got a load of beetroots that I cleared out of the beds, get ready for spring in the veg garden. I've got probably about 3 times more of that outside in the cold. I'm going to do some pickled beetroot and try and preserve as many as I can. Today what I'm doing is I'm going to ferment some beetroot. So I've washed the beetroot already and I'm going to top and tail and peel them. I always use a glass cutting board to cut and peel on because they'll stain anything that's wood. So basically you can ferment in mason jars and things like that. Lots of videos online about it. What I got is I ordered this little crock from Germany. It's a 5-litre crock and it comes with an airlock, so the lid sits in a little vat of water around the side there, and it comes with the fermenting weights to hold the stuff inside down below the brine. So I've already done one trial run. I didn't want to do a video until I tried it, and I did some sauerkraut. Just bought a couple of cabbages from the local shop and sliced them up, pounded them, got most of the liquid came out of the cabbage itself. Mixed that with salt. I did the salt at about 2% by the weight, and it turned out really well. It did a lot quicker than I thought, so I did it on the side here on the dresser in the dining room, and I just kept a little digital thermometer next to it, and it tends to hold. Got a big radiator just behind the camera there when the central heating's on, and the wood burner's just in the next room, so this room's always fairly warm. It seems to hold about 20-21 C. So I went into it thinking it was going to take about 5 weeks. It actually only took about 10 days and it was ready. I did a taste and it was beautiful. So I eat sauerkraut quite a bit. I'll have it in an egg sandwich, sausage sandwich on the side, if I have a jacket potato with a salad, anything like that. And it's just a lovely thing to have. Very good for your gut health. Or any fermented veg is very good for your gut health. But yeah, so I finished I did two cabbages with 2 kilos. So I just used old Dolmio bolognese jars that I had cleaned and washed and sterilised, and I got about 5 and a bit jars finished product, and it was lovely. It was it smelled as soon as I opened the lid. That smell just hit me, and I thought it's actually, because I was so worried it was going to go mouldy. You know, it's kind of a weird thing to do when you've never done it before, and I just thought it was going to go wrong, but actually it worked really well. And it tastes just like sauerkraut, but slightly mild, not quite as sour as the other krauts that I've had from the shop. Obviously, if you do buy sauerkraut, you want to buy the stuff out of the fridge, the raw, unpasteurized sauerkraut. If it's just in a jar on the shelf at room temperature, then it's been pasteurized and all the good stuff in it will be dead. So you want the stuff in the fridge is what you want. That'll be unpasteurized. Anyway, so today I'm going to do some beetroots. So I'm going to peel these. What I have decided to use, because I'm not going to pound the beetroot like you would with the cabbage, I'm just going to slice and dice it, and I'm going to make my own brine. So what I have got is I've got a water distiller. I go through phases where I drink distilled water and add my own salt as minerals to the water and things like that, just because I think tap water's got a lot of rubbish in it. Don't do it all the time, but anyway, I have the water distiller and I've distilled about 3 litres of water just to make sure I've got enough pure water to make the brine. Now for the salt, today I'm using sea salt, just pure sea salt. You can use rock salt, kosher salt, any kind of pure salt. Don't use table salt because that's got anti-caking agents in it, and that'll make it all go cloudy and a bit nasty. And just for a bit of extra flavour, I'm going to add some mustard seeds and some coriander seeds, just a little sprinkle of those into it as well. So got a jug, weighing scales to make the brine. Everything's been cleaned. You don't need to be I don't think you necessarily need to sterilise everything religiously, but just give it a good clean, hot soapy water, good clean, and then let it all dry out, and then you'll be ready to go. So I'm going to get these sliced and diced into the other bowl, and then we'll go from there and get it all in the crock and get it going. Right, so that's all the beetroot is sliced. You can cut it any way you want to cut it, chunks, slices. I just like mine in thinnish slices. Now, the beetroot I mainly grow is a variety called Bolt Hardy. Juice is nice, even when they get big, they stay fairly round. I did have a few from a friend that produced some longer ones, but they did go a bit woody. So what I'm actually going to use these for is to go on top. So I put all of the Bolt Hardy, which are these smaller, rounder ones. I put all those in first, and these I've sliced to go on top, with the weights on top of those, so that none of the bits float up above the brine. So I'll leave those to one side. Now, what I am going to do, one thing I did notice with my sauerkraut is that I covered it with brine, probably about ½ inch to 1 inch of brine. When I actually came to jar it up, there wasn't enough brine to top all those jars up, so above the sauerkraut that was in there. So I'm going to make sure I give it a good couple of inches of brine above the level of the beetroots that are in there. So let's get them loaded in. I don't know if this is going to fill it or be too much. I would say it's only the second batch I've ever done. And 2 cabbages that I did was 2 kilos. And I think that came to not even halfway. I reckon I could squeeze 5, maybe even 6, depending on the size, cabbages in here when I do sauerkraut again. But yeah, so this method of fermenting is a very old method. Apparently it basically uses the lactic bacteria on the fruit and veg, whatever you're doing. You don't need to add anything, no yeast or anything like that. You just let the natural lactic bacteria do all the work. But it's such an easy way of doing it. You know, we're pickling beets, you have to roast them or whatever, and peel them, and I find them quite hard to peel once they've been roasted. A lot easier to peel when they're hard and fresh. So this looks like it might almost fill it. What I will do actually is put some of these mustard seeds and that in first, so they get pinned down a little bit underneath some of the other stuff and don't raise up too much. A little sprinkle of each of those. Okay, so that is down about level with the bottom of the handle, something like that. I don't know if you can see that in there. It's about there. So what I will do is I will place these big flat ones over the top. So that gives me a good couple of inches. I won't use those bits. I'll put these weights in. That's perfect. So that now with the weights is about here. It gives me 1.5 inches to 2 inches from the top. It may, because it's so full, when it's bubbling and fermenting, it may froth a little bit, so I'll stand it on a tea towel just to catch any of that. So to make the brine, so I will just weigh in. I'll make probably, if I make 1 litre first, and just see how we go from there. So I'm doing salt at about 2% now. I think I have read you can go as low as about 1.5%, but you don't want to go any lower. You need the salt to it kind of slows that fermentation a little bit, I think, and helps to deter the sort of bacteria that you don't want. So obviously 2% is 2 grams per 100. So 1 litre of water is 1,000 grams. So we're doing 2% of that. That's 20 grams of salt per litre. Just stir it until it's dissolved. Like I say, I just want to make sure I've got enough brine when I come to jar this up to fully cover the beets. Just what I did with my sauerkraut is once I realised I didn't have enough brine, I did about 3 jars fully topped up over the top of the sauerkraut in the jars, and then I had a couple of jars that weren't, but I just made sure I used those first within a couple of weeks. Obviously, if it's up above and air gets to it, then there's a chance it can get contaminated. You ideally want to keep it below the brine. So I don't know whether this will be enough, but let's just get going. I think with these, because I can't pummel them down like you can the cabbage, it's going to take a fair bit more. I'll do half a litre. So that'll be 10 grams of salt. So what I'll do is I'll watch the bubbles. I'll wait until they stop. Like I say, this room's holding at about 21 degrees C on my digital thermometer there. So I reckon it's going to be done within about 10 days. Now, I think the longer you leave it with something like beetroot that is has quite a bite to it, the longer you leave it, the softer it gets. So even if it stops bubbling, if I do a taste test and it's got too much of a crunch to it, because I like my beetroot, like when you buy pickled beetroot, it's just got a bit of a bite but not too crunchy. That's how I want this to turn out. So I'll give it a taste test after, say, a week, and see where we are. Now I can always just leave it as long as it's all under the brine. It doesn't matter once it's fermented. I think if you just pop it open to have a look. Oh, I think I'm going to need more. I'm just going to do half a litre at a time. Zero that. Must be getting nearly there now, I think. But another thing I'm going to do, I've got all my stuff just in the corner of the room over there, is my pressure canning. So I've got my canner, has come from America now, finally. And I bought 2 dozen half-litre jars and 2 dozen litre jars. I haven't actually played around with it yet. I haven't had a go, I just haven't had time. But I'm going to get that going, give that a go, and I will do videos on pressure canning and water bathing, and I'm planning on with my new fruit garden and everything down the small holding. I'm planning on making all my own jams and things like that again. It's something I used to do in the past: jams, chutneys, pickles, ferments, things, you know, not fermenting in the past, but I used to make jams and stuff. And it's just something that I want to get back into. I really enjoy doing it, and you can't beat your own jam. So I will do videos on that as well. That's perfect. So that is just, that gives me about 1.5 inches headspace. So that's literally a full crock. So I should get a bit more action with this, because when I did the sauerkraut, I was expecting it to bubble like when I've made homebrew in the past, and the old water thing's just constantly going. It wasn't like that at all. It's much slower. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with this, being a full jar, whether it will bubble quite a lot more. Now, what you do have to be careful of, one thing I did with the sauerkraut, I had to make a little bit of brine up to top it up when I realised I didn't have quite enough. So I didn't have any distilled water then. So what I did is I boiled the kettle, put it into a glass jar, and let it cool, but it was still a little bit too warm. And I put that on top, put some salt with it, put it on top just to top the brine up a bit. And what I think happened was I put the water lock on, and I think because it was warm, when it cooled down, it sucked the water that I'd put in the lock into the jar. So that's why I did this yesterday, the distilled water, so it's just room temperature. So now this is all room temperature. It shouldn't suck anything in when I put the water seal on. So basically, that will go on there like that. I'll get a tea towel quickly, and I'll put this over here on a tea towel just in case it bubbles over. And I will top up the water in the chamber. Just grab some water quickly. And it's fine to just use tap water in the water seal. I'll just top that water seal up. And that's it. That's all done. I didn't weigh the beetroot, so I don't actually know how much there was. I should imagine that's probably about 4 kilos or something. That was a whole one of these just heaped. So there's quite a bit of beetroot there. Should do a few good jars. And I'm saving jars. I save all my sort of sauce jars. I started saving jam jars, things like that, for when I'm doing all my preserving. I have got a couple of big boxes of honey jars. Obviously, I'm saving that for hoping to get some honey off my bees. But I can use that for jams and things if I need to there. I think they're 500-gram jars, pound jars, I think. But yeah, so that's fermenting. Like I say, it's only my second time doing it, so it will be interesting to see what happens. And I've never done beetroot, only did the sauerkraut the first time round. So it'll be interesting to see how this turns out, because I do like my beetroot. It's very good for you. So yeah, that's it. Job done. I will just finish off with a little look and a little taste test in a few days, and hopefully it'll all be good. So it's been about 2 weeks since I've done my fermented beetroot. I just haven't had the time to even check it, so I haven't even looked in there yet. I was going to check it after a week. I've just been very busy tree planting the last week or so. I did realise I made a bit of a mistake in the first video. I made my brine solution up at 2%, and just because I was doing the video, I wasn't thinking straight. You are actually supposed to take into account the weight or the volume of what it is you're fermenting as well. So about 20 minutes after I did the first video, I suddenly realised that, so I had to make up. I'd put in I think 40 grams, and because it's a 5-litre container and it's filled basically to the top, I knew that I had to put in 100 grams, 20 grams per litre. So I had to add 60 grams to a tiny bit of water, just to dissolve it. Then I took the stones out and the flat pieces of beetroot that I put in the top, and I poured the really strong brine in, the extra 60 grams in. and just got the handle of a wooden spoon and just gently stirred it around. So I did manage to get it in. So yeah, 5 litres, 20 grams a litre. So that's just a bit of a rookie error there. But yeah, so hopefully it's worked. It's been bubbling. It has stopped a few days ago. But like I say, I haven't had the chance to get to look at it. I'm just going to soak up the water out of the airlock. Oh, smells lovely. Smells lovely and beetrooty. Right. Haven't really planned very well for this. Just rushing to get this done. End of the day. Right. Let's get the weights out. Nicely stained beetroot colour weights. So just get out those longer woody bits that I put on top. Right, so I just need to give it a try, see what sort of bite it's got to it, because if it's still quite sort of stiff, I may leave it in for a bit. It's perhaps a little bit firmer than I would like, but tastes lovely. Yeah, I think I'm just going to jar that up as it is. It's a little bit more of a bite to it than pickled beetroot, but not much. Just a bit firmer there, a bit crunchy. That's actually very nice. So I'll just jar up one jar full just so you can see what it's turned out like. So one thing with beetroot, you're going to stain everything if you're not careful. So I'm just using a slotted spoon, and then I will top it up with the brine at the end. So I'm just using some jars, old sauce jars. This was an old pickled onion jar. I mean, the colour's beautiful. It's really kept its colour. Pickled beetroot tends to go very dark. That's really kept a sort of brighter colour. Looks really good. I'm just going to try a bit from lower down. I'm sure it's not going to make any difference, but just to see what that's like. Yeah, it's very nice. Like I say, a bit of a bite to it, but it's not too much of a problem. So I'm going to jar this up. I've got old Dolmio jars and that. I've just given them a good clean, and I'll dry them in the oven at 110. So yeah, I'm going to get these filled up and top them off with brine. I should have plenty of brine this time because I filled it right to the top. With my sauerkraut, I was struggling a bit to get enough to cover it. But yeah, so that's really good. Fermenting vegetables couldn't be easier, really. And they're very, very good for you. So I'm going to be doing this a lot more. I've got some cabbages coming on down the Smallholding, some red and green. So next thing I'm going to do in a few weeks will be a shredded red and green sauerkraut, and we'll see how that turns out. I might even put some carrot in it just to sort of make it a bit different. You can ferment anything pretty much. There's recipes online. I've got a little book. I don't know where to put it now, but you get little books online with recipes in, and you can do all sorts. But yeah, it's very good for you, and it's pretty easy. And you can just ferment in kilner jars, things like that. Just with popping the jar each day. You don't need to invest in one of these crocks. But yeah, good thing to do. Give it a go. We'll catch you next time, guys. Take it easy. Have a good one.